for you, reboot the phone into recovery, but you will have to actually say flash zip and go scroll to the custom zip. So right now I have it cooking up a ROM while we're talking. I'm not going to have it flash to the SD card or any of that because you guys can't see it anyways. But if you do push it to the SD card, it'll tell you down at the bottom what the name of the file is, and then it'll reboot in an RA, and you just go and you say flash zip, and that's that. You flash it like a normal ROM. Depending what ROM you're coming from, you may need to wipe, especially if you're on a 2.1 ROM right now. If you're using any kind of 1.5 ROM, including fresh ROM, then you shouldn't have to wipe. So, just to recap, this basically lets you take the very base of fresh ROM. I have the ROM stripped down to like 51 megabytes. Then you pick your applications, you pick your theme, you can add your own custom applications, your own custom theme, and any others that I can add over time, you'll automatically get each time you open Fresh Kitchen. It'll grab those updates. And this way, you have a ROM custom tailored to exactly what you want. So we'll go ahead and let this finish cooking up here. Obviously, I have it set so that you can't use the application while a ROM is cooking. Otherwise, you might mess something up. Another thing you will notice, anytime that the kitchen's doing anything, you're going to see paused come up at the bottom. It just went away right now. Basically, that means that the updates are paused, and the reason I do that is the kitchen has to communicate with the phone to get these updates. You can only hold one solid connection to the phone at a time, so I don't want it trying to do multiple things at a time. And while I'm saying that, HTC Sync will absolutely interfere with the kitchen. It doesn't even have to be synced up at the time. If it's running at all, you're going to get problems with the kitchen. And you can actually notice right off the bat, if this information isn't populating properly, you probably have HTC Sync running. You need to close it, even if it's not synced with your phone at the time. So that's that. It cooked my ROM. If I had checked off these options, it would have flashed over to my SD card for me, but I chose not to. Play with that, have fun with it. Tools section. This one is always kind of a mess. If you've used my older kitchens, it's just a whole bunch of buttons. But I did my best to try to kind of clean it up here. So you have visuals. You can install any custom theme, lock screen, or boot screen. The kitchen now is actually smart enough to be able to determine which one you're trying to flash. You just have to click install visual, and it'll let you pick the zip. As it says, it does need to be in proper update.zip format. So what that means, it doesn't need to be signed, doesn't need to have an update script, but it does have to be in the proper format, meaning the right folder structure. Second thing here is to clear the lock screen cache. That's for when we started with clear lock screens. If you had picked a wallpaper, you couldn't ever get the clear lock screen. So that's the fix for that. That'll clear out the cache. Nandroid create and restore. You do have to have root already. You have to have the recovery image installed already, but this just automates the process of doing it for you. These options here are custom to the kitchen. You do need to be rooted to use them to send it back, but to back it up you don't. But we have backup text and restore them, backup dictionary, restore it, backup your scenes and restore them. So if you have your own custom scenes for Rosie, you can back it up and restore them. Down here you can push or pull any file to the phone and clear your cache. If you're getting forced closes or any issues, that's how you clear cache. And of course reboot, recovery, and shutdown. Now one thing about this that's different from how the kitchen used to be is you'd perform one task and then the kitchen would reboot your phone. Nothing you can do about it. Well, now I have it set up so that you can queue up a bunch of jobs, and once you do that, you can just hit do work and it'll run them one by one. If it has to restart your phone, it will do it automatically for you, so you don't need to worry about, oh, I'm doing this, so I better restart my phone. With the exception of pushing or pulling a file, you'd have to determine if the phone needs to be rebooted in that. But basically, you queue up your jobs, you hit do work, and that's it. Add remove programs. This is pretty straightforward. Here's the whole list of stock applications. It's the same ones that you can pick when you're installing or when you're cooking a ROM. So, if I want to remove a file or add one, I can just come in here and check it off, and then I pick either, install or uninstall, and it'll do that for me. The next section is installed apps. So it says click on refresh to see the list of applications installed on your phone. I didn't include stock applications in here since the stock apps are all up here, but what this will pull is anything that's installed on your data app or data app private. So in this case, the only thing I currently have installed is eStrongs. So I can check that off, and then I can choose to uninstall it or to back it up. You will see if I pick install, this will actually gray out. Obviously, I don't need to install an app that's already installed. And just the same, if I pick uninstall, my APKs grays out because these are files that are on my computer, they're not on my phone yet. Now, if you remember what I was talking about with cooking ROM, this pulls from that exact same folder. Any custom applications that you have in that folder will show up here, so you can say you want to install them, you can check them off and click go, and you can do these at the same time. So you can say I want to install, Amazon, browser, calculator, and any custom applications you have here, and click go, and it'll install them all for you. The router is where a lot of people new to the Hero might come, or let's just say you've recently RUU'd and you need to get your phone back rooted and everything. So again, all 4 of these tests do have to pass in order for you to root. If you had come here in the first place, you would see that send keys would say untested, but as you saw, I'd come over to the help tab, I tested it, so we're good to go. A couple different options here. You can flash, while you're rooting, you can choose to flash RA123, which is the older one. The reason I included that is because I've noticed some phones just seem to have an issue with flashing straight to the new one. If your phone's already rooted and you're only trying to upgrade your RA version, you can just check this off. You'll see the button down here changes from root to update RA, and that will either take you from 123 to the new one, which is 162. I don't know, most people might not be running that yet, but this has 162 in it now. Or if you decide, you can go ahead and check off 123, and that'll actually downgrade you from 162 or from 152 to 123. Last option in here is to use command instead of PowerShell. PowerShell is the recommended way to root. If you're using Windows 7, you may have had problems rooting in the past with command. So Windows 7 does come with PowerShell. Other versions do not, but I do have a test in here what will help you get PowerShell if you don't have it. If you aren't using Windows 7, you can choose to bypass that by saying use command instead of PowerShell, but I do recommend that you go ahead and get PowerShell running. Beyond that, we have the help. This just shows all the diagnostics. An about screen, a thanks to all the great guys out there that have helped me. And then the final thing I want to show is something that's going to absolutely help out a lot for helping you debug the kitchen. As I mentioned, this was a huge project that I undertook. I can guarantee you there's bugs in it. So what you can do is you can come over here and go to turn on debugging. It's going to open another window that basically, I kind of had to manually program it, so hopefully I have in here what you need. But every action that you perform, everything that's done to the phone, will show up over here in debugging, and it'll just kind of pop up what the current status of the phone is, and what's going on with it. So, again, if I want to refresh the installed applications, it's going to tell me, what it found. It's going to update it. It's going to, just kind of, if there's any errors, it'll display the errors here. This way, if you do have any problems, you can go ahead and capture it all and easily get me the information, and I can see exactly what's going on in the program. Just a few options here. You can pause it, close it, save it. We'll save it to a text file, or Pastebin will actually copy the contents of this whole thing to your clipboard, open pastebin.com for you and it'll open to a FreshKitchen subdomain. All you have to do is paste it in there, put your name and your email, and submit it, and it'll give you a URL which you can then come give to me, and I can check out what the problem is and see what's going on. So anytime you are submitting bugs with the kitchen, I do request that you do that for me. It'll make everyone's jobs a whole lot easier. And that is it. That is FreshKitchen. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. Hopefully you get some use out of 1.5 still. And once 2.1 comes out, I'll be quick to get an update out for it. Thanks a lot, everyone.